18. My Gentle Giant. In the wake of Henny's land purchase, the fault lines of our relationship began to tremble, and I felt the earth shifting beneath my feet. The shock, disappointment, and anger swirling inside me ignited a newfound rebellion, like a slow-burning fire fueling my determination. Returning from the hell, I announced my departure with calculated calm. A week-long escape to Franschhoek, where Gurik had secured a spot in the town's vibrant hospitality scene. Meanwhile, Esther Marie, deeply absorbed in her matric year preparations, opted to stay behind with Henny. Located approximately 4 hours from Oudtshoorn, Franschhoek, with its French charm and picturesque wine valley, became Gurik's haven after he abandoned his psychology studies. As he approached his 24th birthday, he discovered a fresh start at a renowned restaurant on a prestigious wine farm, residing in a cozy 2-bedroom cottage nestled among lush vines. I left home very early that morning, eager to reunite with him. As I lovingly melted into his gigantic enfolding embrace, our mutual excitement was palpable. For the first time in our lives, we were alone, just mother and son, freed from the suffocating grip of external forces. Years of fragmented moments, snatched conversations, and cherished stolen hours had defined our relationship. Now, an entire week stretched before us, untainted by the menacing interference that had long controlled our lives. The weight of this hard-won freedom filled my heart with gratitude and my soul with joy. Gurik, my gentle giant, stood tall in his size 15 shoes, his sturdy frame a vibrant canvas reflecting his artistic soul. Artistry coursed through his veins, infusing every aspect of his life with color, creativity, and imagination. His humble abode showcased outstanding matric masterpieces on the walls, while the double mattress on the floor radiated minimalism and warmth. His eclectic style resonated in his clothing and resourceful storage solutions, creating a harmonious symphony of creative expression. I was utterly mesmerized. Yet, amidst this beauty, the unshakable awareness of my own undefined heritage lingered within me. Where did Gurik's remarkable talent come from? Esther Marie, too, possessed a creative spark, crafting breathtaking pencil drawings that left me awestruck. I, on the other hand, couldn't draw a simple stick figure. Did I somehow, unknowingly, pass on artistic genes to my children? Our physical stature was equally intriguing. Gurik stood at 2.1 meters, Esther Marie at 1.76 meters, and I at 1.83 meters. Intelligence-wise, we shared ample grey matter. Yet, my birth mother only passed Standard 8. Did we inherit our intelligence from my unknown father? Or what happened that my mother never finished school? That week with Gurik was pure magic. I had invested in Dr. Joe Dispenza, a renowned neuroscientist, and for the first time I committed to daily meditation, immersing myself in his guided sessions. I also devoured his book, breaking the habit of being yourself. As I delved into his principles, how our personality shapes our reality and how changing our thoughts can reshape our world, I witnessed Gurik's magnetic presence at the restaurant. His confidence and charisma drew patrons in, earning him generous tips. It seemed he had mastered the art of reinventing himself, shedding the weight of his painful past. As I watched Gurik, I saw the determination in his eyes, his unwavering effort to craft a life for himself. Despite his struggles, his resilience shone through, and I admired his unbreakable spirit. He was a social magnet, introducing me to his friends at neighboring wine estates and restaurants. We shared contagious laughter and heartfelt conversations among his circle of friends. Observing his effortless charm, I felt the stark contrast between his self-assurance and my own deep-seated doubts about embracing my life. This disparity stirred a confusing jumble of feelings within me, leaving me with more questions than answers. His authenticity was a painful reminder of my own disconnection back home. In the evenings, we'd cozy up with movies on my laptop, munching on popcorn, Gurik's favorite treat. Sleeping beside him, I felt a deep sense of safety and security, grateful for the unspoken bond between us. All too soon, our week of bliss came to an end. Gurik's goodbye hug enveloped me, warmth spreading through my being, his unmistakable scent lingering. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, and I forced a fragile smile, a brittle barrier against the ache within. Please, let my visit have shown him I'm here, always. With a heavy heart, I started the car to face the looming challenges back home, most pressing of which was the fear of financial instability. Henny's obsession with money and fear of losing it had been a constant concern since we met. Now, having invested most of his savings in this property, I dreaded the impact of financial strain on his mental state and our relationship. I sensed the weight of expectation on me to perform as an estate agent in 2015, bridging the financial gap. But I knew it would come with a price. Endless debates about my commission and criticism of my business methods. Whenever Henny's anxiety surfaced, I felt numb and paralyzed, as if a washing machine was churning in my mind, leaving me dazed and unable to think clearly. This mental fog crippled my sails and summoned the demons of hopelessness and depression. In those moments, I had to draw on every ounce of strength to resist the darkness, focusing instead on the voice within that declared me a victor, living by the principles of resilience and determination. Life's trials were relentless. The test came first, followed by the lesson. I had to fall 7 times, only to rise 8. The hard yards. As I approached 21 years of marriage with Henny, I felt exhausted from navigating the same cycles of struggle. Yet, I still couldn't envision a way out. The sense of camaraderie I felt with Gurik, that deep sense of belonging, lingered as I navigated the Franschhoek mountain pass and wound my way back home. As I emerged from Verliesdorp's outskirts, however, my emotions took a drastic turn. A tidal wave of sorrow crashed over me, its undertow pulling me under. It rose from my stomach, bubbled through my chest, lodged in my throat, and finally spilled over my lips. I burst into gut-wrenching sobs. Overcome, I pulled over. The wails racked my body, agonizing and relentless. Ugly and messy, they tore through me. In that moment, I felt Gurik's pain, his loneliness, rejection, and abandonment. I felt the weight of his struggles to overcome, to make his way in this cruel world. His avant-garde style attracted rude stares and even ruder comments, especially from men. The cruel sting of judgment cut deep. Each glare was a razor-sharp cut, slicing me into a million pieces. Memories took me back to a car ride, Gurik beside me, vulnerable and open. 16 and questioning, he exclaimed in wonder and amazement, "Oh my God, Mum, I think I might be gay." Christy had prepared me for this, warning of the lasting impact of his childhood trauma. I smiled, my voice steady. "Son, be who you are, become whoever you want, stand tall, look life straight in the eye, and be authentic. Never pretend to be someone you're not." Next, we met with a psychiatrist who told Gurik in my presence, "You're incredibly blessed to have a mother like yours. I've seen many boys unable to share their sexuality with their parents, held back by fear of rejection." My face lit up and a wave of relief and gratitude washed over me. It was a moment of pure validation. From 2005 onward, I worked tirelessly to earn Gurik's trust, particularly during his final 2 years of school. I encouraged him to open up about his weekend escapades with friends. The drinking, hubbly-bubbly smoking, and cigarette smoking, which he'd started at just 13. Inspired by Brian Tracy's words, "If your children lie to you, who made them afraid to tell the truth?" I vowed to create a safe space for Gurik. My promise to him was clear. "You'll never get in trouble for being honest with me as long as you share the truth about your weekends." And share he did, initially hesitantly, expecting me to react poorly. But I hid my anguish, always calmly asking, "What happened next? Where did you go?" Guided by Jim Rohn's wisdom, how do you bridge the age gap? By remembering. I nurtured our relationship. When Gurik revealed that his friends envied our openness, wishing they could be as honest with their own mothers, it was a defining moment of gratitude and redemption for me. The deserted road between Verliesdorp and Worcester cradled my own sorrow as well. Sobbing uncontrollably in the car, I revisited my past, haunted by memories of a younger me, desperate to connect with my birth mother. Birthdays served as bittersweet reminders of her absence, stirring a poignant question. Does she ever think of me? I'd swiftly pushed the thought away, unable to bear the uncertainty that followed. I longed to have had the courage to ask her about my adoption, to share my deepest feelings and hear her story. But now, the weight of not knowing her truth, of possibly forever being separated from my own history, felt like an unsurmountable grief. Time lost all meaning as I explored all the rabbit holes. I sat for what felt like an eternity before composing myself enough to start the car. The journey home was a blur of lingering sadness, with tears streaming down my face, unbidden and unstoppable. The thought of laying my shattered heart at Gurik's feet never crossed my mind. I didn't consider, even for a moment, reaching out to him and unleashing the torrent of tears that had consumed me. It never dawned on me that we might both long to cry together, sharing the crushing weight of our combined pain. Instead, I felt compelled to be stronger, for his sake and mine, to prove that I could bear the weight. If only